Start.
To our viewers, panelists, teachers, and to my fellow students, good day. I am Priscilla Hodgson, and we are here to present to you our research entitled The Relationship of the Projectile to the Wounding Mechanism of Tissue, together with my groupmate, Miss Jaya Aquino. And let's start by giving you an idea and the nature of this study.
In our introduction, the principles of wound ballistics are based on the interaction of the projectile with the human body as well as on the energy transfer from the projectile to the tissues, and that the disruption of tissue is directly proportional to the mass and velocity of the projectile. Each firearm has their own projectile type that varies on their physical characteristics, which may have an effect on the damage to the tissues. In our RRL, in the year 2016 alone, more than 250,000 people died as a result of firearms worldwide. And also, there are several factors that could contribute to the severity of a wound caused by a firearm. First is the type of firearm used, second is the distance of the shooter, and lastly, the speed and the behavior of the projectile. So let's go now in our design and methodology. Research design. Qualitative research will be used in our study, where collecting and analyzing non-numerical data will be performed to understand the concepts, opinions, or experiences. According to MacLeod, he defined that qualitative research is concerned with the subjective meaning of an experience to an individual and can be used to generate hypotheses and theory from data. Thus, this qualitative model will be used in our study. However, the severity of damage can be estimated numerically to measure the depth of the wound. This research will focus on observations of the damage caused in the tissues, and the study will provide explanations and reasons of the outcomes. Furthermore, illustrations with descriptions will be used to support and interpret the data. In our population and local of study, uh, the study the study was conducted at Baguio City Police Office Station 7 firing range. In the firing experiments, we had used two models of pistol and pigskin were used as the target. As presented, there are these are the visual presentation of the pistols that were used in the firing, and the pigskin is the actual picture of the pigskin used in the experiments. Also, the licensed firearm fired 2 shots per treatment or experiment. That corresponds to the 3 different firing distances from each firearm. The total amount of shots are 12 shots. As the availability of the target samples, the researchers obtained them from the market, and the place where the experiment done provided the firearms. Let's go now to the data gathering tool. This research is an experimental descriptive approach, and the recorded sources and observation methods will be the tools to be used. The data will be gathered through observations that will be obtained upon the execution of the experiment. Furthermore, the data will be recorded with the use of photography and field notes. This study will only limit to the use of a M1911 pistol and a Glock pistol for conducting the experiments, as these handguns are the most common firearm used in shooting incident in over 80% of mass shootings, as described by Statistica Research Department, year 2021. Ideally, human tissue should be used for the experiments, but given the ethical issues and difficulties of obtaining cadaver tissues, the researcher decided to use pig skins as the shooting targets, given the closest relation and the similarities rather to human tissues. Human and pigs share a lot of similarities when it comes to anatomy and physiology. Let's now proceed to our data gathering procedure. The very first step before conducting the experiments, the researchers request the permissions for using firearms for this study and a safety protocol is required to manipulate the data gathering tools. The researchers also look for a licensed firearm to guide them. Lastly, the researchers will obtain pig skin from the market and the experiment will be initiated. Furthermore, the shooting range or shooting distance will be the first variables to be set. There will be three shooting distances as mentioned. There will be 2 shots from each shooting range for a total of 6 shots per firearm. These experiments were conducted to know how the range of the shooter or distance from the target affects the condition or characteristics of the gunshot wounds. And let's now proceed to the treatment of data. Recorded observations, notes, and photographs will be used to keep record of the outcomes of the experiments. After the experimental phase, pictures, notes, and observations of the wounds will be organized, processed, analyzed, and discussed in the final report included in the thesis result from this research. And now let's proceed to our results and discussion.
So, in our results and discussion, after having the experiment and analysis, the researcher were able to found the following. So, first is the types of firearms. In here, we found out that the types of firearms has an impact on the disruption of tissue as each firearms holds individual characteristics, likewise on the ammunition. Aside from that, the range of fire has obvious relevance to such issues as to whether the person who fired the gun was close or far from the target. We have here the near contact range. In here, the firearm was not in contact with the target, but it was held with the short distance from the target. The general characteristics we have observed here is the presence of gunpowder and soot around the entrance wound, which is an indication that it was fired from near close range. Next is the intermediate range. In here, it is usually held 12 or 24 and even 36 inches, which still um, able to produce the second effects on the skin. In here, the presence of gunpowder was lesser as compared to the um, tissue or the injured tissue we have presented to you on the near contact range. Lastly, we have the distant range. In here, um, in distant range, the bullet was the only composition or of the muscle or composition expelled from the muscle that reaches the skin. In here, there is no visible tattooing or soot deposition, which is associated with distant entrance wound. And the lack of soot or gunpowder tattooing confirms that this was shot from the distant range. So this study will or only proves that the severity of wounds really vary on the factors. So that's all. Thank you.